Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, well, welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and today we will dive into a topic close to many of our hearts, and that's finding confidence and comfort in social settings, especially for those of us who are identified as introverts. Well, we have a very special guest today. I'm going to call him Rob G, founder of Event Mindset. Rob has attended over 2,000 events and has transformed from an introvert feeling out of place to a master of events and dynamics. But before we bring Rob forward, let's take a quick break, all right? It's your girl, D-Goddess, Nyomi Banks here on the Season of Self-Love, and we'll be right back.
Exciting news, everyone! Nyomi Banks, your favorite transitional life and relationship coach and the inspiring host of the Season of Self-Love podcast, has just released another incredible resource for your personal growth journey, introducing her latest transformational ebook and workbook, Balancing Act, a guide to harmonizing your life. This 50-page guide is designed to help you navigate the complexities of life, bringing balance and harmony into your everyday experience. Perfectly paired with our amazing new series for this month, The Act of Balancing Life. This workbook is packed with practical exercises, insightful prompts, and valuable tools to empower you on your path to self-discovery and fulfillment. Don't miss out on this opportunity to invest in yourself and enhance your journey toward a balanced life. Balancing Act is available now. Grab your copy today and step into a world of harmony and self-love.
Are you ready to embark on a journey toward harmony and balance? Join us for our exciting new challenge, the 21 Days Living Balance Challenge on the Season of Self-Love podcast. As part of our monthly series, The Act of Balancing Life, this challenge will guide you through daily practices designed to help you harmonize your mind, body, and spirit. Whether you're juggling work, relationships, or self-care, we're here to support you every step of the way. Don't wait, sign up now to take part in this transformative experience starting October 1st. Together, we'll build a community of balance, seekers ready to embrace joy and self-discovery. Visit our website or click the link in our bio to join the challenge today. Let's find our balance together.
What are some common barriers that prevent people from expressing? Hey, it's your girl, D-Goddess, Nyomi Banks here from the Season of Self-Love podcast.
Yeah, I would say remorse. So shame and guilt is a very dividing emotional.
And these are one of the many amazing conversations that we have every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Season of Self-Love podcast with myself, Nyomi Banks, as well as our resident therapist, Dr. Will Washington of Washington Wellness Institute. Come by.
The reality of our relationships with people.
Come by.
And a lot of times we're afraid of how people look at us. And so that compassion can't enter.
You can hit us on the
That's
website,
really
the
big,
Season of Self-Love podcast.com.
Let me ask you this. With the truth, is it...
All right, well, welcome back. It's your girl, D-Goddess, Nyomi Banks here on the Season of Self-Love podcast. And today we're talking about the act of balancing life and it's empowering introverts at events. And we're here with Mr. Rob G, founder of Events Mindset. Welcome, Rob.
Nyomi, I'm so thrilled to be here. Let's get started. I'm ready to chat with you and your audience. I think it's going to be a great conversation.
Thank you. I am excited. So before we jump into our discussion, you guys know how we do it here. Let's take a moment for a brief guided meditation to help us to center ourselves and prepare us for a very enriching conversation. So if you are listening right now, I invite you to find a very comfortable position and to close your eyes and let's get ready to center ourselves. Take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it for a second. Gently release it through your mouth. Now, as you breathe in, I want you to envision filling your body with positive energy. And as you breathe out, let go of any tension or negativity. Now, picture yourself surrounded by a warm golden light that signifies self-love and acceptance. In this space, remind yourself that you are worthy of joy and happiness. Take another deep breath in. Now out. Take one more deep breath in. Now out. Now I want you to carry this feeling of calm and love with you as we explore today's topic. And when you are ready, open your eyes. All right, well, welcome back. First of all, thank you to you, Rob, for just joining me in this part of the session right here. But if you're new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, this is something that we do every day, Monday through Friday, that we kind of center ourselves before we get into the topic at hand. So let's get into this topic. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Naomi.
So, Rob, your journey, it has been both inspiring and relatable. But can you share what it was like at your first major social event, and how did that experience spark the change in you?
So for me, the very first event I went to was a black tie event. Didn't own a tux, had to go to Men's Warehouse to get one. So there was kind of that whole, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't have a life preserver in the pool. And there were over 1,000 people there. And, you know, that's a lot of people. Now, I was extremely, extremely fortunate. My now husband is an extrovert. In fact, if you looked up extrovert in the dictionary, there'd probably be a photograph of him. So that, you know, that really helped me kind of be at ease, because I realized intuitively I didn't have to do all the heavy lifting. And I think that a lot of people struggle with at events is, I've got to be the life of the party in order to be valued.
Yeah.
And I learned pretty quickly, I would say within the first 6 months of going to events, and I've been doing it 15 years now, but within the first 6 months, I learned that my skill as an introvert was so invaluable to the success of any event. And I realized that because there would be many times where we would go to 2 or 3 or even sometimes 4 events in a night. And that would require going in a car from place to place. And, you know, in between those events, we'd be like, you know, well, what did you learn? What did you talk about? And I would often be, well, I learned this, and this. And he'd look at me and like, we were there 45 minutes. How did you uncover all this information? And I was like, I just asked questions and engaged in active listening. And the thing about events, I always like to say events are like Earth.
Okay.
And Earth is, there's the right amount of oxygen, and there's the right amount of oxygen for life to happen and for life to thrive. And if you're at a party or an event with 100 introverts, there's not enough oxygen in the room. And when there's not enough oxygen, things don't tend to live or do very well. And if there's 100 extroverts in a room, that's too much oxygen. And I think we all know what happens when there's too much oxygen in a space. Things blow up.
Yeah.
And dicey things happen. And it is important, especially for anyone here who's an introvert and they feel like they don't belong, there is a place for you. And I was one, I was never popular in high school. I even threw parties where no one came. So like, I understand that feeling of loneliness and isolation. But once I realized that I didn't have to be all these things that society, my loved ones, these other people wanted me to be, and I was just myself, that's when my confidence got boosted. Now I have no problem going to any event because I know the things to do, but it took practice, but it also took showing up and not being afraid to show up.
Yeah. You know, you had said something just a little bit about your journey, but I want to go a little deeper in your journey with the challenges of you being an introvert and you hosting your very first party and no one attended. How did that experience shape your understanding of social interaction and with your self-perception?
Well, that was, before I started going to events. And what I realized was before I went to events, I did what everyone else did. I just talked about myself. And in
Mm.
order to be interesting, you have to be interested. And I was never interested in
Mhm.
others. And the thing was that as an introvert, I was overcompensating by thinking, oh, if I just talk, I'll be interesting.
Mm.
When the exact but I was an introvert doing that. And
Mm.
when you're doing that, you're not being authentic and you're
Yeah.
not being true to yourself.
Yeah.
And once I stopped doing that was when I started getting more invitations. And I actually think that if I was an extrovert like my husband, we wouldn't get as many invitations because
Mhm.
we take up too much space and too much
Yeah.
oxygen in the room for other things to be, for other things to thrive. And, a great event's like a great ensemble. It's like this great symphony of all these great parts. And it's a great tapestry of a community, of a business, of a life, whatever it is. Welcome those different things and welcome those different perspectives.
Yeah. Okay. So my next question is, what advice would you give someone who feels pressured to change their introverted nature into order to fit in?
Anyone who's feeling that pressure doesn't know, honestly, with all due respect, does not know what it takes to be a good guest, because a good guest is going to engage. So if you're an introvert, learn how to ask questions. And the great thing about questions is people love to talk about themselves. They just
Mhm.
do. And,
Mhm.
like I said earlier, that's what I did before I started going to events. People love to talk about themselves. And if you look at them and you're engaged and you listen to them, you're going to find out information. And that's the thing is, the things that people tell me, whether I've known them for 5 minutes, 5 years, or 5 months, never, it's amazing what people will share with you if you make them feel comfortable. And introverts have a level of emotional intelligence I think that extroverts don't have, because
Mhm.
they're going to read the room, they're going to scan the room, they're going to be much more aware and cognizant of their
Mhm.
surroundings. Use those things to your benefit. And what I always like to do is, someone gives a really long rambling answer, and someone who is also a good guest will realize that they weren't a good guest in that instance if you do
Mhm.
that. If someone gives like these 10-minute answers, find the first thing that they say that interests you. And that could be in the first 2 minutes, and you're just nodding and you're engaging and you're doing all that. And you go back to that. A good guest is going to be like, oh my God, I talked for way too long. Tell me more about you. I am so sorry. And I've had that happen many, many times. But, it's that way you don't feel overwhelmed, because it's like, you know what?
Right.
I've already got the next thing I'm going to answer. So I'm just going to let this person talk. I may
Right.
find out some more valuable information, but I've got my question ready. So I'm
Mhm.
not worried about what I'm going to say next. So it allows you to kind of be observant. You don't have to, I believe in eye contact and engagement, but
Right.
you don't have to
Mhm.
stare at them. That way you can kind of see what else is going on in the room, and you can plan your exit strategy if it's what I like to call a wind up toy. And a
Mhm.
wind up toy is just someone who just goes and
Yeah.
just doesn't know when to stop, versus someone who's just going to, versus someone who's going to be present and realizes that they may be dominating the
Right.
conversation.
Okay. Right. Right. So for overcoming social anxiety, especially now that we don't have to have that intimate touch with anyone anymore, we can do exactly what we're doing, and that is it. We can have a lifelong relationship like this. So for overcoming social anxiety, what are some of the common triggers that you've noticed that cause social anxiety at events? And how do you recommend managing them?
So there's the thing that you're not enough and not everyone's going to like you.
Mm.
So the one that trips people up is, well, this person was mean to me and I don't ever want to go back there. And my first question will always be, when I'm with a client or coaching them, is, well, how many people were at this event? And they may say 75, 100, 200. And I'm like, okay, so you were in a room of 75 people or 100 people, and the first person you talked to wasn't nice to you. And you thought that one person spoke for the other 99 people in the room, when they don't speak for all 99 of those
Right.
people in the room. And a lot of the anxiety comes from that people will have one bad experience and one
Yeah.
bad instance, and they let that ruin things for themselves.
Yeah.
And, I'm a firm believer that when you show up, things happen.
Mhm.
And that prevents people from showing up, and it prevents opportunity, it prevents growth, and it prevents self-confidence that everyone is entitled to. And for the ones who have social anxiety, they tend to be a little bit more introverted. And I will tell you, having conversations with introverts is far more interesting to me than extroverts, because every single answer is going to be thoughtful. It's going to be intentional. And I know that it's going to be coming from a deeper, more soulful place from them. And you can have some really fascinating conversations with introverts. And that's why I tend to gravitate towards them myself as an introvert. And a lot of introverts just go to extroverts just because they want to kind of feel bigger about themselves. But two introverts having a conversation, you can have some really fascinating and deep conversations with another introvert from one to another.
Right. I can imagine you and your partner having a conversation, he being the extrovert and you being an introvert. How does that go? Like, I know, is it part of balancing?
So here's what I'll say, just like with anything, so I think of introversion and extroversion. So Oprah has always talked about how sexuality is a spectrum, and it's kind of a range. And I feel the exact same way of introversion and extroversion. And I've had clients where they're like, I'm called the mayor, but after I do this, I need to not go to a social event for 2 days. And it's like, okay, the tank's not full. It's maybe 3/4 full, but it's not. The point is that it's not full. And when you're going to something with another person, you need, the one thing that I would recommend is making sure that you're both on the same page. You both know how long you want to stay, because with an introvert and an extrovert, if you don't have those conversations, the introvert's ready to leave for 45 minutes to an hour before the extrovert is. And you kind of come up at a happy medium for doing that. So a lot of it is just communicating in advance, but also as an introvert, understand that the extroverted half of a couple is going to need a little bit more fuel and oxygen than you are, but the extrovert needs to realize that as well. So, some people like to fill the tank all the way full. Others people like to fill it 3/4 of the way full. And when you've got different personality types, find the happy medium in between where you two are both comfortable. That way you're both being challenged as well. Meaning if you're an introvert, I can have another conversation, or if let's say you're at an art gallery, I may go look at a piece of art that really captivated me, and I'm just going to go back there and look at it for a few minutes and take that beauty in. And then when I'm done, I can go back and be like, okay, time to go. So, just doing those types of things and just being on the same page is so important, whether it's in a personal or a professional context. I often will team up with corporate clients, introverts and extroverts together, because they bring different strengths to an event that allows, when it's the right combination, for them to be really unbeatable.
Right. So you're just talking about the picture that actually goes right into the recharging strategies for this one. How do you balance the need for social interaction with the need to recharge? So give some more additional strategies that you can find more effective of taking breaks without missing out, because you just use the picture of going and seeing that. So what other things, say it's not a picture there, what other things can they do, to actually help balance that interaction, so they can be able to recharge and go back to doing what they were doing and interacting with others?
So are you meaning like, between events? So like, if I went to something one night. So what I always like to do, and this is going to sound really counterintuitive, but it works. Mm-hmm. You don't have to say yes to every single thing that you're invited to. And I think people feel pressure for that. Yeah. And, before the pandemic, I probably go to about a half to a third of the number of events a year that I go to now than I did before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is I'm more intentional, but everyone's a little bit more intentional. And it's okay to be more intentional, just because I've learned that the reason that I get invited back to things is because I show up and I very clearly give off energy that I want to be there. Yeah. And if your limit is one party a week or one party a month, let that be your limit. But go to the thing that is going to allow you to grow. It's going to allow you to make connections. It's going to challenge you a little bit, because that's the great thing about social situations is if you do them right and you do them effectively, you can actually really grow as a person. You can have conversations with people you may never have otherwise. And that's always what I love about events is I get to have these wonderful encounters with people, some of whom I may never see again, and some I may have seen from the other side of the room for years, but they become friends. And there's one gentleman I'm thinking of where that happened with me, where I always saw him on the other side of the room for years. And now we see each other at events, and we only started chatting about a year ago, even though I'd probably seen him casually for probably about a decade. But the right instance and the right situation came up, and now I have a good dialogue and a relationship with this person. So it takes time, but the first things first, do not feel pressure to go to anything that you don't want to go to, and know your limits.
Know your limits. Know your limits. Okay, I got one more question for you about appearance and perception. That's something that I read on your thing. How important is it about attire and body language at networking?
So
do they have these tips? Go ahead.
Absolutely. So the interesting thing is only 8% of what you actually say is what you actually say. The other 92% is your body language. It's all the other things. And attire goes into that. So, for me, attire is a way for you to show your personality and put your best foot forward. So that's why I've always found attire to be a really important thing, because it allows you to tell a story about yourself. And the good thing is that I'm a big believer in accessorizing. So if I'm wearing a nice watch, someone who's a watch collector may be like, that's a really nice watch. Tell me about the watch. So it winds up being these additional conversation pieces, especially if you're an introvert. If you're a watch collector and that's a hobby of yours, and someone sees that, you as an introvert, you're like, you know what? They're seeing me. They're not just seeing whatever, but they're seeing an element of my personality or something that interests me. And they're being thoughtful enough that they saw that, and I can have a conversation about that. And that allows the guards to go down. But I always say it's three things. It's dress with sophistication that showcases your personality and put your best foot forward. It's just those three things. And those three things are critical in you have to show up like you want to be there. And your attire is an excellent way to showcase that. And that doesn't mean, if there's a thematic party that you go full on with the theme.
Right.
It means you could wear a pocket square if it's like a breast cancer event that I'm going to. I may wear a pink pocket square to showcase my support of that organization, but I'm also doing it in a subtle way that's a nod to it without wearing a pink tuxedo if I didn't want to wear one of those. Right. So, there's ways to do it. It doesn't mean go full on in. It just means you're showing respect to whatever that occasion is, and the host that, put a lot of effort, blood, sweat, and tears into making a great event for you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you, Rob. I know it was very quick, but it's quick, sweet, and you get right to the point. So what I want you to do right now is where can someone get your coaching for something like that? Because everyone needs to have that sound mind and be able to help them, especially if you've been through it. So where can they find you at, Rob?
So they can find me at eventmindset.com, and there you can actually download a cheat sheet I have that's called 6 Graceful Ways to Exit Any Conversation. So, fun that's the thing we're talking about at the end here. Or you can find me on Instagram or LinkedIn at Rob Giardinelli, which is Giardinelli.
Beautiful, beautiful. Again, thank you, Rob, for sharing your insights and your strategy with us today. To our listeners, remember, embracing your introverted qualities can turn into the greatest assets at social events. Again, thank you for tuning in here to the Season of Self-Love. So be sure to follow us for more episodes on self-love and improvement. And remember that every day you take towards understanding who you are is a step towards what? Balancing and fulfilling your life. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovering and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer. Have a good one. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovering and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer.